Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Skyblock News. I'm your host, Derailious, and today we're going to be going over some brand new Aura dialogue, as well as a few things related to the new hub, and some additional information. Before we begin, though, make sure to like and subscribe. Use code RAIL on the Hypixel store for 5% off your order, and use code RAIL or code MILK if you're going to be picking up Hytail. Without any further ado, though, let's get started. To begin today, if you head over to Aura's lab in the Crimson Isle, you'll actually be able to find her once again in her lab, and I'll have the coordinates on screen now. It's in the back of the magma chamber, but you'll be able to click on her and get a bunch of dialogue. I've learned more than I ever could have from success alone, and I've been taking notes. My lab doesn't feel very secret anymore. I'm going back to the drawing boards. I've noticed how many people have been stopping by. Next time, things will be different. You will see. And just cycles through this dialogue with a few other extra pieces, but regardless, it's very, very exciting that Aura is back in her lab, and her story is not finished. I imagine there will be more related to her story at some point in the future. I also wanted to spend a little bit on the new alpha, which is related to the new hub, going over a bunch of renders made by community members Nealkitt as well as Icy. This is all made possible by Hypixel's mod, which allows you to basically get isometric renders, and I wanted to show some of these off because I feel like they were really interesting. At first, we have a spin of the new hub. As you can see, it shows off how condensed the new hub is in terms of detail. Pretty much every single area is full of content. I also wanted to show off this before and after with the old hub and the new hub. We can see that some things have actually moved. The mountain has been moved significantly to the south, but in terms of the overall size of the hub, it's not too different. It is a little bit smaller, but not significantly so. I feel like it's just so much more dense in terms of content that it feels way smaller than it actually is. In terms of the hub itself, I think it looks absolutely amazing. I'm a big fan of it. I have seen some people in the community talk about how it feels a little bit less like a village, it feels a little bit more like an MMO hub, but I do think it's going to be way more navigable for new players, and I think that's one of the most important aspects of it. I think people will get used to it over time. It was just like the release of the second hub, which is the current one. I hope that over time, though, players learn to love this new hub, as I, for one, am a big fan. There are quite a few secrets all around the new hub, and one of the most interesting can be found right underneath the building where you'll pick up your first Abaphone at right around these coordinates. If you head over to this leaf patch, you can actually go underneath it, and you find this little duck pond underneath the Abaphone building. It's definitely very cute, just one of those things that adds a little bit of charm to the hub. Very nice to see this, and it's not the only one. There are many more things as well. Something I do want to talk about related to the new hub is actually related to Diana and events within this hub. Now, I imagine that most smaller events, stuff like Year of the Seal, would be totally fine here. The Carnival will also be totally fine. But I think we're at the point with Diana specifically that a separate island dedicated to the event is probably going to be needed at some point in the future. In terms of the entire hub, only this area just outside the forest, in my view, is good enough to actually handle the fighting that Diana requires, and because many of the mobs now have effects that either launch you around the map or require you to move around with the mob, the new height variations, the new differences in the hub itself are going to make fighting here a lot harder. In my view, the solution is just making a new island for Diana specifically. It doesn't have to include a whole bunch else, but it would be really nice if we could get stuff like mythological sea creatures, maybe a new type of tree that we can chop down that allows you to get wood logs that you can use to, I don't know, buff your armor even more or buff your mythological gear even more, so on and so forth. But regardless, even if we got just a bare bones island for Diana specifically that was mythological themed, I think it can go a long way in fixing the problems related to the event. And even since Diana V2 first came out, I've always felt like the hub wasn't really the best place for it anymore, and I think it's time to give Diana herself her own special island that we can interact with. I would love to hear what you guys think about this down below. I, for one, am a big fan of the new hub, I've got to say, but I think in terms of combat, there's only one good area for combat of that style, and it's out here right by the castle. And unless they've removed all the other spots all around the map, this is going to get cramped pretty quickly. Something else I wanted to talk about in terms of a review of sorts for the hub is I really appreciate how much more greenery and rivers there are throughout the whole location. One of my biggest gripes with the current hub is that it felt kind of gray, especially near the spawn, but I really like how they've included more greenery pretty much everywhere, whether that be Cat's building, which is a lot more front and center, in terms of the bright colors all over the builder's building. The area with the bazaar now has big trees overhanging it, showing off that it's the path to the foraging area. Even with or without shaders, it looks really, really good. Obviously, I have the shaders on right now. These are the complementary shaders, and I think it works out really, really well. I'll have these linked down below. But regardless, I'm just a big fan of pretty much everything with this hub. I think people will end up liking it a lot, and it feels like a brand new start for Skyblock. There's something else I wanted to bring up as well related to the museum. Some people were talking about the fact that there were new items supposedly leaked because they saw, for example, frozen armor in the museum. That's related to fishing. This isn't actually some sort of leak, seemingly. This is just the frozen amulet. Although the wording here could imply maybe in the future, if we were to get like Great Glaciate Lake, maybe we'll get the rest of the equipment pieces here. Regardless, though, this is just something that already exists in the game. It's not some sort of new item. So on and so forth for the rest of the items, I imagine. Wrapping up here, it's really nice to see that the Aura storyline is not totally concluded, with likely more to come now that she's back in her lab, as well as some additional dialogue. It's also great to be hopping on the alpha and just seeing all the new information related to the new Skyblock hub. In my view, it came out really good. Once again, would love to hear further discussion from you guys. And for those who have complaints, what do you think they could do to make it a little bit better over the next month while it's on alpha, in your view? I would love to hear all of those thoughts down below. Leave anything you want to write down below in the comments, like and subscribe, use code RAIL on the Hypixel store for 5% off your order, and look to the future, fellas. I'll see you then.